OrthoTV viewers. I'm a resident at Sancheti Institute for Orthopaedics and Rehabilitation, College of Physiotherapy. Our today's topic is going to be on blood flow restriction therapy and its safe and effective application. So, welcome everyone. As clinicians, we face a constant paradox. A patient needs to get stronger to recover, but their injury, be it ACL reconstruction, freshly managed, or degenerated hip, they cannot bear the high mechanical loads that are required to actually strengthen the muscle. So we physiotherapists have traditionally we have been stuck in a holding pattern of training at low intensity rehab. But now there is a newer technology called blood flow restriction therapy, which tricks the body into building high intensity muscle mass with low intensity weights. So who benefits by this therapy actually? Firstly, it is most helpful in post-operative rehabilitation as it allows for early muscle activation without stressing the surgical site. It also benefits elderly people who, whose life depends on reversing muscle atrophy without using heavy weights. For pain-limited strengthening where injured tissues cannot bear heavy loads. So what is BFRT? It is the manipulation of tissue physiology through compression of limb vasculature performed with low intensity exercise. Now, this is not a brand new technique. It was actually pioneered by Dr. Sato as Katsu training originated in Japan, and been it has been modified through years of research. So it was built on biomedical tourniquet and BFR safety. This system uses a cuff which is tied to the limb as shown in the picture, connected to a tubing and to a BFRT device which controls the limb occlusion pressure. So this is the BFRT equipment that we can see. It consists of a microprocessor control unit. It automatically determines the limb occlusion pressure. Think of this as a high-tech blood pressure device. So this tourniquet system, it determines the limb occlusion pressure and it maintains the limb occlusion pressure, and the person can perform low intensity exercises at this pressure. It also consists of BFR cuffs, which are wide pneumatic cuffs with a contour to fit the person's limb, and multiple sizes are available in these cuffs. There are matching protection sleeves, which ensure skin integrity, and the tubing connectors to connect the cuff to the system. As you can see in this picture, the microprocessor controller is held on a stand and is connected to the cuff via tubing, and the person performs that exercise with this limb occlusion pressure maintained and the cuff is inflated at a certain pressure. Now, how much pressure, how many reps, what is the protocol that is used? There's a standard protocol which is carried out at 20 to 30% of one repetition maximum. It is set to very low loads as BFR already is carrying out the strengthening at low loads. The pressure, how much pressure should be set? Individualized pressure based on limb occlusion pressure is set from 40 to 80% of the total limb occlusion pressure. For upper limb, you will maintain the occlusion pressure at 40 to 50 or 60% max. But for lower limb, the pressure can be set to 70 to 80% as the limb girth is wider. Volume, high repetitions are performed in 4 sets. So the set 1 consists of 30 reps. This is to decrease oxygen and build up metabolites. After that, after intervals of 30 seconds, 3 more sets are done only at 15 reps each. And between all these sets, the cuff is not deflated a single time. Only after all 4 sets are carried out and completed with total of 75 reps, then the cuff will be deflated and exercise will be paused. So our muscles consist of fast and slow twitch fibers. Fast twitch fibers are type 2 fibers, which are key in daily activities and in muscle function. These fast twitch fibers are the first to atrophy and hardest to gain back. Typically, to recruit large type 2 fibers, you need to lift heavy, at least 70% of the person's maximum. BFRT changes the environment for the muscle as it creates pressure, reducing oxygen supply to the muscle, hence creating a hypoxic environment for the muscle, encouraging perfusion of more oxygen. So it recruits fast twitch muscle fibers sooner and more effectively. These are the proposed mechanism of action for BFRT, that is metabolic accumulation, fiber type recruitment, which is mainly the fast twitch muscle fibers type 2, cell swelling and increased oxygenation, and stimulation of growth hormone. This triggers a physiological cascade which begins with ischemia and hypoxia during the exercise itself as the blood flow is restricted and oxygen supply is reduced. Because here we are blocking the arterial supply by 40 to 80% and venous supply completely. This leads to a triggering of anaerobic metabolism as metabolic stress is increased when the muscle is forced to work without sufficient oxygen. Therefore, just as in high intensity exercise, when we have a fatigue onset later on, but here we have an earlier fatigue onset because of hypoxia created. Hence, metabolites accumulate faster, signaling fatigue faster than expected for that less of the load. And this increases the recruitment of type 2 fibers, and the body has to compensate for this stress that is caused in the muscle by activating larger fibers and mimic the high intensity training. This is a graph visualizing the hypoxic environment created for the muscle. When cuff is inflated, you can see the tissue oxygenation on the y-axis on 0. The tissue oxygenation is 0 when cuff is inflated, and when exercise begins, compared to low intensity exercise, the low intensity BFR exercise shows more decrease in oxygen and more hypoxia compared to low intensity exercise. Hence, this will trigger a feedback loop for perfusion of more oxygen to the muscle. The restriction of blood flow leads to tissue ischemia, and the reduction in oxygenated blood supply leads to tissue hypoxia. So the post-exercise gains for low-intensity BFR are more due to faster hypoxia created for the muscle. Let's compare the BFRT versus traditional high-load strength training. For BFRT, the loads required are just 20 to 30% of 1 RM. But for traditional training, the loads required are very high, that is more than 70% of 1 RM. In joint stress is minimal in BFRT, but in traditional, the joint stress is quite high. The primary stimulus for blood flow restriction therapy is metabolic accumulation and hypoxia, while the primary stimulus for traditional training is mechanical tension and muscle damage. Blood flow restriction therapy is best for post-operative conditions, pain-sensitive or deconditioned populations who are not used to training with high loads. While traditional training could be used for healthy athletes or individuals with no load restrictions, and they can train with any amount of loads. Now, coming to the safety and efficacy of this blood flow restriction therapy. Addressing the risk of venous thromboembolism, the most common question. Does BFRT increase the risk of blood clots? So there were 2 studies done which studied the markers of blood coagulation in young healthy adults. And they found no change acutely or chronically compared to high intensity exercise in individuals who were given BFRT with low intensity. So these studies have reviewed the safety consideration in practice and research for blood flow restriction therapy, and this concludes that the BFR exercise does not actually activate the coagulation system. Understanding the hemodynamic response with blood flow restriction therapy. So blood flow restriction therapy with low intensity exercise does actually increase blood pressure and heart rate compared to low intensity exercise alone. However, these increases are less than or equal to those observed during traditional high intensity exercises. So even if it is increasing, it is not more than the actual high intensity exercises that people are doing. So this concludes that hemodynamic changes with BFR exercise are within the normal range, as expected, the heart rate and blood pressure will increase. Key risk factors for adverse events with BFR. So there are some things to keep in mind while prescribing BFR. The load, volume, and frequency should be within the prescribed limits. Load should not increase more than 20 to 30% of 1 RM. Volume should be with 4 sets of 30, 15, 15, and 15 reps, and frequency should not be overdone. Use of unnecessarily high BFR pressures could lead to danger of over-occlusion. The occlusion pressures are set to 40 to 50 or 60% for upper limb and for lower limb 70 to 80%. But if the patient cannot tolerate those pressures, they can be decreased according to their tolerance at the start until they get used to the pressures. Performing exercise to failure repeatedly could risk rhabdomyolysis from occurring. Rhabdomyolysis is the leaking of muscle myoglobin into bloodstream leading to acute kidney failure. So there's this thing called the repeated bout effect, which was studied by Clarkson in 1995. The initial bout of BFR exercise, which is the first set, consisting of 30 reps continuously, causes some amount of muscle microtrauma. But this is a protective effect for the subsequent bouts, reducing the risk of severe occlusion. This image shows rhabdomyolysis occurring where damaged muscle is leaking out myoglobin into the bloodstream. When not to use BFRT, absolute contraindications are vascular insufficiency or severe bruising of the limb. So these conditions are specific where BFR may be harmful to the individual and should definitely not be used. All patients should undergo a screening for contraindications prior to application. Absolute contraindications. When is BFRT not an option? So these are the list of conditions where BFRT should not be used unless cleared by the physician. History of venous thromboembolism. It will not directly cause DVT, but if the patient has a history of venous thromboembolism or has active DVT going on, they cannot be suitable for BFR. Significant peripheral vascular disease, severe or uncontrolled hypertension, limb with active infection, malignancy, or open wounds, pregnancy, sickle cell anemia, and limb with dialysis access or recent vascular grafts. The clinical precautions and risk mitigations through BFRT should be assessed thoroughly. Conditions requiring caution before proceeding with BFR are controlled hypertension, diabetes, peripheral neuropathies, obesity, and history of stroke or other cardiovascular disease. For key risk mitigation strategies, there could be potential nerve injury if the cuffs are too narrow, as they are concentrating the pressure gradient over a very small surface area. So hence, to avoid this, wider pneumatic cuffs could be used by avoiding placement over superficial nerves and continuously monitoring for numbness and paresthesia. Neuropraxia is rare and it will not occur if used with proper technique. Muscle damage could be prevented by gradual progression of loads and volume and frequency of the exercise. Overly aggressive pressure lasting over 10 to 15 minutes should not be used. Preferably, the cuff should be deflated after one exercise consisting of 75 reps. Not in the middle, but it could be deflated between exercises without letting the cuff deflate between sets. The clinician's responsibility to avoid any adverse effects to patients that could be taken care of are equipment, that is tourniquet type. The tourniquet should be comfortable. The cuff width should be of a larger surface area and wider. Pressure, BFR pressure should be adjusted according to the limb involved and muscle girth of the patient. For heftier patients, more pressure could be used for lower limb, that is 70 to 80%. And for thinner patients, the pressure could be reduced according to patient's tolerance. Duration, the patient should not undergo occlusion by cuffs for more than 10 to 15 minutes at one time. The exercise load, volume, and frequency should be monitored according to the guidelines. Personalization of the limb occlusion pressure is a key for safety and efficacy for effective blood flow restriction therapy treatment. The limb occlusion pressure should never be a generic standard number used for each and every patient. The BFRT microprocessor controlled unit has the ability to determine each individual's limb occlusion pressure with the help of the cuffs. So the total pressure should be a certain percentage of that limb occlusion pressure itself and not some generic number. Now, what is limb occlusion pressure? This is the minimum pressure required to stop the flow of arterial blood into the limb distal to the cuff. And the actual pressure that is set on the tourniquet should be a percentage of this personal value of each patient. Using personalized occlusion pressure is crucial for modern, safe, and effective strengthening. As you can see in the figure, narrower cuff would mean a higher pressure and increased risk of nerve damage, but a wider cuff would increase the surface area and decrease the risk of any muscle or nerve damage. The checklist to remember for in-session safety and monitoring while using blood flow restriction therapy. First thing is individualized pressure, as we discussed before. Measure limb occlusion pressure first and then set it to a certain percentage of that pressure instead of using standardized pressure. Ensure correct fit of the cuff. Use the correct size and a wide pneumatic cuff, which should be placed to the proximal aspect of limb, applied snugly over the protective sleeve to protect skin integrity. Monitor patient vitals and symptoms. Watch for dizziness, shortness of breath, unusual pain, paresthesia, numbness. And if the patient is feeling any of these things, give a break or stop the exercise. Adhere to time limits. Limit continuous occlusion time, typically 5 to 10 minutes. Deflate the cuff between exercises, not between sets. Immediate deflation. Deflate the cuff immediately if symptoms, any of the symptoms that are mentioned above appear. So these are the references used. Here we come to the end of the topic. I would like to thank Dr. Parag Sancheti, Mrs. Manisha Sangvi, Dr. Radha Bhattad, and the physiotherapy team for giving me this opportunity to present here. Thank you.